Good evening, our dear viewers, and welcome to our special program to shed light on the U.S. presidential race for the White House. I'm Imran Al-Dalal, and here is my colleague Badriya Al-Saleh, who will join me in this special media coverage.
Thank you, Imran, and welcome again to our dear guests who are joining us for tonight's special coverage, in which we'll emphasize these several key topics while focusing on the latest updates regarding the U.S. presidential elections.
Yes, as the race is heating up between Vice President Kamala Harris and former U.S. President Donald Trump, the world is counting down to hear the key announcement of the result that will outline the future of the country and will expand its shadow over the whole world.
Up until the moment, Harris and Trump remain neck and neck, with analysts predicting that the election will come down to razor-thin margins in a few key swing states, raising the questions: can Kamala Harris become the United States' first female president, or will Donald Trump return to the Oval Office in the White House? Stay tuned for more.
I accept your nomination to be President of the United States.
So tonight, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
The Election Day 2024 is here, with the control of the White House and the narrowly divided Senate and House hanging in the balance. While early voting is a major factor in some states, tens of millions headed to the polls across the country in person earlier in the day. In most states, polling stations will open between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. local time, while the poll closing times differ from state to state and sometimes county to county. 7 swing states are expected to be key in deciding the presidential race outcome. These key states include Pennsylvania with 19 electoral votes, North Carolina with 16 electoral votes, Georgia with 16 electoral votes, Michigan with 15 electoral votes, Arizona with 11 electoral votes, Wisconsin with 10 electoral votes, and Nevada with 6 electoral votes, collectively totaling 93 electoral college votes. A candidate needs at least 270 out of 538 electoral votes to win the election. The states typically begin to report results soon after the polls close, but it may be a while before we know who won the presidential race, as it's expected to be incredibly tight and it can take some time to count mail-in ballots in certain states. In a tight race between them, counting could continue well past election night, and we might not know the winner for several days. In a remainder of that, in the last election in 2020, the results were announced 4 days after the election on November 3, once Pennsylvania's results were confirmed. In the previous election in 2016, Hillary Clinton conceded to Donald Trump the morning after the election. If there is a 269-269 tie, or a third-party candidate wins electoral votes, preventing any candidate from reaching 270 votes, the step that follows is known as a contingent election. A contingent election is the process that takes place when the U.S. House of Representatives decides the winner. Each state's delegation in the House casts one vote, and a candidate must receive a majority of the state delegation votes to win. The U.S. Senate would then choose the vice president, with each senator casting one vote and a simple majority, 51 votes, required to win.
Today we are about to witness the beginning of a new chapter in U.S. history, which can make substantial changes in the game of power in politics, economy, and several other aspects. On this occasion, we would like to welcome our guest tonight, Mr. Qais Al-Usta, a journalist and a political analyst. Mr. Qais, it's a pleasure to have you with us here today. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Amran, to have me. But first of all, I have to tell you that after years and years from doing political analysis and interviews, that's my first time in English, so you have to go easy on me.
Well, it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us here today.
Thank you, Amran.
Thank you. So, first of all, the 2024 presidential race to the White House ended with the election day. This is the crucial day that witnessed millions of people casting their ballots to help decide the federal, state, and local races. In your opinion, what is the significance of this day?
Well, when you talk about the presidential election in the United States of America, let's start saying that the U.S. is the biggest country in the world. They have the largest economy, and they are the stock market of the world. They are the university of the world. They are the hospital of the world. They are the currency of the world. And they are, the largest in everything. So anything happened in America affect all of us. And when I said all of us, I mean the whole world. As a state, also as individuals. When some of the banks in 2008, fall down, the impact was from the United States until New Zealand. That's through the whole world. So it will be a significant. Most of people will wait to see the result. If it's Donald Trump again, there is, some debates about the economy of the world. If there is Kamala Harris, it's a different story. So just let's wait and see.
So you did mention it will affect the whole world.
Yes.
But can we talk more specifically about the Arab countries and the GCC? How will it affect them?
Well, if you are talking about the GCC country, we have a good relationship with the U.S., with the United States of America.
Yes.
We are, especially the Kuwaitians, we still remember the role of Bush Sr. and his administration to liberate my country in Kuwait.
Yes.
I am old enough to say that we still remember these names, and we still
carry the scars.
Carry this passion about America.
Yes.
Even Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Bahrain, I think they share us the same feeling about the United States of America. But now it's a little bit different, with everything going in Palestine and Lebanon of these days, and all these crimes doing the Israelis, all these killings. I think we have another point of view. So, of course, we need something different. We need a U.S. president tell the Israelis that enough is enough, and all violence get violence. The way I see it, that we need a president enforce the Israelis to implement the Security Council resolution, especially 242 and 338, which means that the Israelis have to go back to the line of border the 4th of June 1967. All these things and other things, of course, we need it from the next President of the United States of America.
Yes, and what about Donald Trump? The last election he lost to President Joe Biden, the current president. What are his chances now?
Well, it's a tight race.
It is.
And I think most of them are above the 240 electoral votes, which mean who get that 270 will be the next president. So he have a good chance, but also Kamala Harris a good chance. Now we are talking about 7 swinging states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, and so. So we have to wait until maybe tomorrow in the morning to know who is the next president of United States of America. Here we have to say that a new history is gonna they gonna write it tomorrow, because if Kamala Harris wins the race, she will be the first female to get elected as American president. Even Donald, the president, former President Donald Trump, if he gets elected again, he will be second. And the United States history to elect 2 times, but they are separated. The first one was Steve Grosvenor,
Yes.
back before maybe 140 years, and he will be the second to get elected, but separated, which means he did win, then he lost, and he won again. So in either way, a new history are written on the United States of America.
So we saw many challenges up until today with their presidential campaigns, I mean. What are some of the main challenges facing the next U.S. president, whether it's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
I think the economy, the immigration, a lot of things, but most of them, you know, as American citizen, you have to deal with the domestic issue first. The Americans always keep thinking about their health insurance, their education, their jobs. They don't want to lose their jobs, especially after the coronavirus. They get affected too much, and these kind of domestic things. But we said earlier that what's happened in America affects us all. You know, there is what's going on in the Middle East, in Ukraine and Russia, and this war from 3 years. All these things, I think the American people are trying to, you know, figure out what to do with it. So next president have to deal with this issue, domestic and foreign affairs.
Yes, well, Mr. Ghais, I'd like to continue this discussion with you, but after this short break.
Okay.
Dear viewers, stay tuned for more after this short break.
A flurry of remarkably good economic news over the past week could create a daunting mandate for whoever is elected as the next U.S. president. According to analysts, a rise in protectionism following the U.S. presidential elections could trigger a reordering of world finance and trade.
With the U.S. presidential race still neck and neck, U.S. inflation is expected to cool even further from its pandemic peaks. Private job creation is beating estimates. Pending home sales data is popping. Consumer sentiment is surging toward optimism, and gross domestic product is growing apace, though slightly below some expectations. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are both pitching themselves as the best steward of the future health of the U.S. economy. At the same time, both candidates are working to frame themselves as a departure from the status quo, recognizing voters' lingering dissatisfaction with the economy despite the strong macro-level data. The mood of economic pessimism within the electorate has prompted both Trump and Harris to roll out a slate of policy proposals that promise a new economic future for Americans. As the presidential contest is likely to remain close until the results being announced, policy uncertainty arises from a lack of clarity on whether the new president's party will control Congress. The most likely outcome seems to be either Vice President Kamala Harris is elected president, but with a divided Congress, or Donald Trump wins with a Republican Congress. According to these scenarios, Harris' presidency will provide a boost to the U.S. economy over the next couple of years through the expansion of social benefits, but is unlikely to materially alter the economic outlook for the region. An alternative outcome is a full-blown Trump presidency, in which he not only wins the White House and Republicans regain control of Congress, but a re-elected President Trump follows through in full on his election pledges. This identifies numerous global transmission channels that could impact the whole world and the region. That includes the fiscal stimulus boost demand, in which the looser fiscal policies are likely to provide significant support to the U.S. economy, while the U.S. equities strengthen in anticipation of tax cuts and higher public spending. That also includes trade tension rise as the U.S. hikes tariffs substantially, the U.S. shutdown of China's access to new technology, the renewed immigration restrictions, as well as the energy market and the financial sector. Unsurprisingly, the U.S. becomes both more inward-looking and more focused in trade terms on those partners with whom it has free trade agreements (FTAs). Analysts hint that imports from non-FTA countries in Asia, Europe, and other emerging economies are likely to drop, while saying that a ratcheting up in protectionism could trigger a major reordering of world trade.
Are you ready to make your voices heard?
It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream.
And when we fight,
We're going to make America great again.
Now, before we go back to our distinguished guests, I'd like to welcome our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Manaya Al-Ghallaf, who's going to provide us insightful perspectives on the ongoing electoral process from the scene. Manayir, with the voting process nearing its close, how would you characterize the voter turnout and activity throughout the day, and what are the measures taken by relevant authorities to ensure a secure and smooth voting experience in your state?
Well, the voting process in person has ended in most of the states at varied numbers according to the voters' schedule and ability to vote in person on November 5th. Actually, it was smooth and easy, especially more than 70 million people have cast their ballots either in person or by mail during early voting, according to recent figures, which is considered a record number for this election. After the polls close on election day, ballots and unofficial results are shared with the public, materials are returned. The time it takes to count ballots varies greatly across the country because each state has its own unique set of rules and procedures. I can say that Arab Americans and Muslims are familiar with the voting process, as we know that there are nearly 3.5 million Arab Americans in the United States, according to the Arab American Institute. Many American Muslim voters, most of whom backed President Joe Biden 4 years ago, have been wrestling with voting decisions to the extent that Arab American leaders in a swing state like Michigan publicly endorsed President Trump, accusing the Biden administration of failing to act fairly on the event in Gaza. So none of this makes the decision to support Kamala Harris easy.
That was Manaya Al-Ghallaf, our correspondent in Washington, D.C. Thank you for your insight. Now back to Amran and our distinguished guest in the studio.
Welcome back to KTV2, dear viewers, with our distinguished guest. Now, sir, choosing between candidates Harris and Trump seems to be a tough task for most voters. Do you agree with this idea? How do you evaluate the situation?
As I told you before, I think the main issue will decide who will be the winner of this election. If we are talking about economy, most Americans prefer Donald Trump, even for the immigration issue, because do you know he's very tough on the immigration issue. He tried to build a wall between the United States and Mexico this year, yes, but he failed because the High Supreme Court they ruled this suggestion. So I think, but in the other way around, Kamala Harris will be better and the democracy in whole, about human rights, about these kind of things, because some Americans think that Donald Trump is a new tyrant of America and even the world. So it's about issues more than individuals. As I repeat it again, Donald Trump for economy and Kamala Harris for democracy.
Okay, and how about their choices? You know, it's going to be vacant spots and they need to delegate with these positions, such as the vice president, for example. You have Kamala Harris, who picked Tim Walz, the governor from Minnesota, to be her vice president. And Donald Trump, on the other hand, has picked James Vance, who is a journalist that is renowned for his sharp views. Do these positions that they are filling affect voters' opinion, in your opinion?
Of course, and that's a good question for a reason. Usually there is a kind of establishment give any politician a roadmap to be a president of the United States,
yes,
which means they help him to pick even his words, his response, his everything, how to rule America. I don't believe in conspiracy theory, but there is establishment. Just give him a help, give him a roadmap to be a president.
Yes.
If we are talking about Donald Trump, there is no such thing. President Trump is different. He comes out of this establishment. Everything start with him and end up with him. There is no Republican Party. There is Donald Trump now. In the Democratic side, it's a little bit different. Let's talk about the vice president. All the expectation was going that Kamala Harris will choose John Shapiro, and she didn't do that and picked Tim Walz.
Yes,
I think there is something changing in the U.S., especially with the youth. Most of them are going left. Tim Walz, he comes from the left side of the Democratic Party. He's like a small Bernie Sanders, something like that.
That's an interesting comparison.
Yes,
yeah,
yes. So I think there is something changing
within
the U.S., especially with the youth. Do you know these protests in the universities about the situation in the Middle East and about all this bloodshed in Palestine? Something is going, I don't know, maybe even they respond, give us an idea what's happening. Usually, before most of the Americans, viewers or citizens, they get from information from traditional channels like CNN, like that. So there is someone controlling all these news. They give them the news they wanted to hear. Now from the and this new technology, the iPhones and all these kind of things, they are watching everything by themselves. So Now it's better. It's better also for the Middle East. It's better for the Palestinians. It's better for the Lebanese. For anyone suffering from the Israelis and their what they are doing in the Middle East, all these killings, all these things. So I think there is something shifting in the United States of America, and picking Tim Walz and not picking John Shapiro give us, a way that, like a direction, what's happening in the United States of America.
Historically, also, we see states such as New York, which hasn't voted Republican since 1984, which was Ronald Reagan's second term. And you have the states of Connecticut and New Jersey as well, 1988. That's the last time they voted Republican, and that was George Bush Sr. So can history dictate these changes? Is that what
No, I think it's already, it's already closed. Texas will go to the Republicans, California will go to Democrats, New York will go to also Democrats, Florida will go to the Republicans, and these kind of things.
I see. Yeah.
So, but if we are talking about states, only now everything stops with these 7 states. As I told you before, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina. These are 7 swinging states, and they are 93 electoral votes. So we don't. No one will understand them. So 93 will change the whole race. 93 electoral votes.
Yes. Well, Mr. Qais, please stay with us. We have to go back to our colleague, Badriya Saleh. Dear viewers, stay tuned for more.
I accept your nomination to be President of the United States.
So tonight, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
As we know, the 2024 United States elections is taking place today, during which the president and vice president will be elected. In addition, all 435 seats of the House of Representatives and the 34 of the 100 seats of the Senate will be contested to determine the membership of the 119th United States Congress. 13 state and territorial governments and numerous other states and local elections will also be contested. Let us take a look now at the overview of the U.S. elections.
The United States Congress is the first constitutional institution in the United States of America and is considered the legislative body in the political system. The Congress consists of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives consists of 435 members elected every 2 years and represent electoral districts in all states. The Senate consists of 100 members, and the Constitution stipulates equal representations for all states in it at a rate of 2 representatives for each state regardless of its population. In the House of Representatives, members elect a Speaker of the Council or a spokesman, as well as a majority leader and a minority leader in the Council. The Speaker of the House of Representatives is the most influential member in it, as he comes second to fill the position of the country's president in the event of a vacancy after the vice president. The United States House of Representatives has the right to vote on the federal government budget and has the power to impeach the president and the Supreme Court justice, in addition to issuing bills to increase revenues, and is entrusted with choosing the president of the country in case where no presidential candidate obtains a majority. In this case, the representatives of each state has one vote. The House approves most bills by unanimous approval, like the Senate, or by suspending their provisions, which are the two fastest methods in the legislative process. As for the second chamber of the American legislative institution, it is the Senate, which is the upper house of Congress, and the membership of the representative in it, known as the senator, lasts for 6 years, and a third of the member of the council are renewed every 2 years by direct general voting. The Vice President of the United States of America heads the Senate, but the Senate chooses an actual chairman from among its members belonging to the majority party, and the chairman heads the session of the Senate in the absence of the Vice President, and the Council also chooses leaders by the majority and minority within it. As for the powers of the Senate, it has several powers that the House of Representatives does not have, including approving treaties and agreements before the President signs them, as well as approving appointments to several senior positions such as Supreme Court justices, some military positions, and ambassadors. The Senate played a major role in passing the Civil Liberties Act on June 19, 1964, which expanded civil and political rights and ended discrimination in public life in favor of African Americans.
Welcome back to KTV2 studios with our distinguished guest, Mr. Ghais. Now, regarding the Muslim and Arab communities living in the United States of America, what hopes and expectations do they hold as they engage in this democratic process?
Well, I think most of them will try to figure out what's better for them inside the United States of America. Mm-hmm. And the issue also I told you before, economy, healthcare, education, jobs, health insurance, all these kind of things. About the Middle East, they want the president to be fair, mm-hmm. To treat people with dignity, to stop the Israelis from killing people in Lebanon or Palestine, and sending the message that enough is enough, and enough for bloodshed, all these children's, and
yes.
So I think there is two messages they want to send it. Okay, most of them now in Michigan, and in small county they call it Dearborn, mm-hmm. And so I think if we are talking about economy, they have a high expectation, mm-hmm. from both candidates. But if you are talking about the situation in the Middle East, most of them, if it's about this issue, they will stay home because they don't have any confidence with both of them about our case in Middle East or about the foreign affairs. Because most of them think that the Israelis lobbies, the Jewish lobby in the United States,
which is a strong lobby,
which is a very strong lobby, controls everything within the Middle East area.
Mm-hmm. Well, can I ask you more specifically? Do they, the Arab communities, the Arab Americans, do they seem torn? You have Kamala Harris, who was criticized by the Arab Americans for the way she has dealt with Palestine, but on the other hand, you have Trump, who is renowned for his immigration policies. So is there a conflict? Do they not know which one to choose? Who do they lean on the most?
As I told you, if you are talking about the Middle East, well, Donald Trump, he approved the occupying Israelis for Julan, and but they consider it Israeli territory. And he also, Donald Trump removed the council from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That's not a good sign for Arab Americans,
voters.
Arab voters, to lean up on Trump to do something better in Middle East. But if you are talking about economy, I think most of them will lean up on Donald Trump. If you are Kamala Harris, she didn't do Biden administration didn't do anything for stopping killing in Middle East. So most of the Arab community blame Kamala Harris because she is the vice president now, and she didn't do anything to stop all these killings.
Yes, surely a lot of politics involved in that issue.
Of course.
Mr. Qais, again, we have to take this short break and we'll continue this discussion. Dear viewers, stay tuned for more.
Now let's welcome our guest on the line from Washington, D.C., Mr. Nabil Mikhail, a writer and political analyst. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Mr. Nabil, what would you say is the significance of the U.S. elections in defining the future of the United States and the entire world? And what are the main topics on the elections table?
The turnout is very high and the activity reflects a great deal of enthusiasm and visibility by the campaigns of the two candidates. What is new is that we have more Republicans voting early. That was not the case in 2020. In addition, fewer mail ballots were sent this year than what happened 4 years ago. It is also interesting to know that the states that were hit hard by Hurricane Helene and the states that are considered swing states have seen high turnout rates throughout the last 2 weeks or so. There are so many political groups encouraging early voters. They are actually replacing polls now as indications of who will win the elections, and instead of just talking about how will Pennsylvania vote, how will Michigan vote, they are now talking about what the early voting is revealing about the status or the chances of either Trump or Harris winning the White House. More women than men are voting early. The black turnout in cities such as Detroit and Philadelphia are essential for a victory for Kamala Harris. If the turnout is low, her chances will be very slim in winning the White House. Some cities, actually like Milwaukee in Wisconsin, has reported a very low turnout. That could be the exception if compared to other locations inside the U.S. Interestingly, 23 rural counties in the state of Georgia, according to Fox News, which were won by former President Donald Trump in 2020, are leading that state's early vote turnout. And the percentages are very high, so that's beneficial to Donald Trump. 72 hours before elections start, officially on Tuesday, November 5th, it is estimated that 45% of the size of the electorate in 2020 has voted. This means a figure close to almost 75 to 80 million people. So that could also shed light on how many people will vote in the election in the year 2024. It could be a figure around 170 to 175 million Americans. The Muslim Americans have many legitimate demands. They are demanding no discrimination against them when they go to the polling stations, that they have the right to exercise their duties as citizens of the U.S. to vote and select whoever candidates that appeal to them. They also want no slogans hostile or making them enemies, no slogans directed against them by the candidates or by the campaigns. They want also to be airing their views. They want candidates to be listening to them and to their views, especially against the backdrop of the fact that they do not have a big lobbying group. They basically want also the politicians elected to implement the policies that will help the Muslim community and also help their mother countries. Basically, they want a ceasefire in Gaza. They want to avoid a regional war in the Middle East that could be catastrophic. But I would assume that the Muslims, or I would say that the Muslims in America have made a great progress in entering the political process and being knowledgeable about the political system. Previously, even their campaign donations were returned by politicians. Now, politicians are soliciting money and soliciting their contributions, so they are having a positive impact on the electoral process in the United States.
That was Mr. Nabil Mikhail, writer and political analyst, speaking to us from Washington, D.C. Stay with us, dear viewers. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more live coverage on this special program.
Are you ready to make your voices heard?
It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream.
And when we fight,
We're going to make America great again.
Welcome back, dear viewers, to our discussion with our esteemed guest in the studio, Mr. Qais. Now, seeing that the U.S. are close allies with not only Kuwait but the GCC members, what message do you think the GCC should have for the next president?
I think we want to send a message for the next president that we are in the GCC country. We want better education for our kids, and he can help us with that. We are in Kuwait more than 22,000 from our students. They are in the United States of America University. They study there. We want to alight a candle for 1,000 of our our employees that they see a light on the end of the tunnel. We want development, and they can help us with that. There is a lot of issue they can help us with that. The United States of America, as I told you before, is the largest country in the world, and they can help us with a lot of things. I think the next president for the United States of America can lean off the GCC country as an airline, but in return, we want the next president to be more fair, dealing with the issue in the Middle East. We support the Palestinian right to a state. We support a peace process. We don't want to see either our kids or their kids killed in the streets like what's happening now. So, but all these things have to be on a fair, on United Nations resolutions. Israelis have to know, and they have to know, in the end of the day, they have to implement all the Security Council resolutions about the Palestinian case. We want a president to understand that, to implement that, to force the Israelis to deal with this issue on his next next 4 years he's gonna rule America and mostly the most of the world. So all these messages, they have to hear us. They have to hear it from us, especially from the GCC country. We are an airline. We have a good relation with the United States of America. They are more than welcome here, but also in return, they have to be, balance between the issues between Arabs and the Israelis.
I see. Now, zooming out of the GCC, how about the whole world? What is the significance of the next president, and how will it define the future of the world?
Well, there is a lot of things. A lot of things happen in the world now. The situation in Ukraine, terrorist groups all over the world, all these killings, a lot of things. The economy is very bad, especially after coronavirus.
Yes.
All these kind of things. We need the U.S. The next U.S. president to deal with them. He can do a lot. He can do a lot. The environment, especially in the environment.
Global warming?
Yes, global warming. Now the activist environment, they have a nightmare if Donald Trump come to power again, because his relation with them is very bad. All these kind of things, you can think of it. So in either way, what I'm telling you here, that the next president of the United States of America will affect us all. All this environment, economy, terrorists all over the world, all the world in the war in Ukraine, the gas, the oil, all these kind of things pump up for me when I think what I do need as an individual, as a Kuwaiti citizen, from the next United States president.
I see. Now, you touched on COVID. I'd like to ask you a question about that. So when that happened, did that affect Trump's election? Not then. We saw that he lost to Joe Biden. Did it affect it for this campaign?
I think now he knows better. Because he did undermine COVID in the beginning of the COVID virus, and that cost him the election. Donald Trump lose the election in front of Joe Biden in 2020 because he undermined the coronavirus, and the United States of America lost a lot of lives in the coronavirus. Most of them was very ill. There was the hospitals cannot afford giving them service, giving them somewhere to sleep. There was not enough oxygen. So the coronavirus make him lose the election. Now he knows better. I think he will deal better with anything come with this territory. Any virus, a new virus. We don't want to get a new virus, but it happens. And after this last 30 years, we've seen more than a virus, the COVID, a lot of viruses come. So it's a possibility that these kind of things happen again. I think now he knows better. And anyway, now the whole world is preparing for anything new. Because the coronavirus was very bad for the world.
Yes.
We lost millions of lives. The economy is now very bad. Everything was very bad during the coronavirus. We hope that the world will be ready for a next virus or something like that. But anyway, all these things will, you know, will know everything in the end of the day, maybe after 2 or 3 days, when any one of them get to the 270 electoral vote.
Well, political analyst Qais Al-Usta, we really appreciate your time. And of course, it was an absolute pleasure. We hope you enjoyed your first time with us in the English News Department.
Well, I hope I delivered my message. It's my first time in English, but I hope I delivered my message. Thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure also for me. And I hope that I do it again and again and again.
Thank you. You did and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, dear viewers, stay tuned while we switch now to our colleague Badriya Saleh. Stay tuned.
Earlier, Dr. Saad bin Tufla Al-Ajmi, renowned Kuwaiti analyst, writer, and former Minister of Information, shared his opinion about the U.S. elections for 2024 in this recorded phone call. Let's take a listen.
I think that in Kuwait, let's start with Kuwait, we have strong ties with the United States of America. After all, it were the intrepid and the resolve of the United States and then the military might that had actually led the coalition back in 1991 to liberate Kuwait after the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait on the 2nd of August of 1990. That, you know, we remember very well, and we have and harbor great gratitude for. On the one hand. On the other hand, other Gulf states have also strong ties with the United States of America. They have bases. We have an American base in Arif Jan with thousands of American militaries. We have bilateral treaties on all levels with the United States of America. We consider the United States of America a strong ally. People have their own personal whims and hopes and wishes and this and that. But at the end of the day, it will not change an iota in the American politics, because the American strategy is not decided by one person. It's not decided by one president. It is decided by the strategic interests of the United States in our region. Hence, if there is a mutual interest between the United States and our countries, then it will be for the benefit of both sides. And therefore, you will find the United States as a major world power defending its interests and will be concerned about the stability of our countries, our states, for its own sake, for its own interests. Therefore, you know, we, as friends of the United States of America, we just wish the American people well. We wish them, you know, whoever they choose, you know, we would like to maintain those strong bonds between our region, the Gulf countries, and the United States of America. As for the Muslim vote in the United States of America, you know, some estimates say that it's between 3 million and 5 million votes, but depends on who's counting. On the one hand. On the other hand, when we speak of a Muslim vote, it's like we are speaking in a sort of a holistic block of voters.
Well, this concludes our program that casts light on the U.S. presidential race to the White House between Vice President Kamala Harris and former U.S. President Donald Trump. I would hope to meet you again tomorrow for more discussion on the aftermath of this significant event. We would like to, of course, extend our deepest gratitude to our guest in the studio. Thank you for joining us, sir.
That brings us to the end of tonight's special program, but don't forget to tune in tomorrow as we dive deeper into the question on everyone's mind. Will Kamala Harris or Donald Trump be the next to step into the Oval Office? Join us live as we keep the anticipation alive. Thanks again for watching and have a pleasant night.